Hello, fellow fly fishers and future fellow fly fishers. Welcome back to my 10-part series on fly fishing for beginners. And today, it's part 6, and we're going to talk about essential knots. So, knots can really drive you nuts, and I've seen it with my own eyes. So I've fished with some people, and it's getting later in the day, there's not a lot of light, there's a lot of fish activity, and they're struggling to tie on their flies, and they're getting a little pissed off. So I want to prevent that from happening to you, so I'm going to give you some tips, and my basic tip is practice, practice, practice. But before we get into the knots that I'm going to teach you that you're going to need while you're on the water, I'm just going to show you the knots that are used to typically set up a fly rod. So when you attach backing to a fly reel, you're going to use an arbor knot. Now I should say, if you buy a kit, this will all be done for you, so you don't have to worry. For those of you who are brave the first time and going to go out and buy separate rod, reel, line, and backing, and leaders, you're going to need to know these knots. So there's places on the internet that you can see, or on YouTube, there's tons of videos. But to tie the backing to the reel, you can use an arbor knot. And then when you come up to tie the backing to the fly line, your most common knot is probably an Albright knot. Well, there's other knots, but and I prefer the Albright knot. Now, when it comes to the leader to the fly line, there's going to be a loop, most likely on the end of the fly line that you're going to buy, and on the leaders that you're going to buy. And so you're going to just have a loop-to-loop connection, and I'll briefly show you that. I'll demonstrate that when we go inside and start tying some knots. And then down here, here's the knots that you're going to need to know. You're going to need to know the triple surgeon's knot. As we talked about earlier, as you fish and you change your fly or lose a fly, you're going to cut pieces of the leader off, which are in the tippet section. And once you cut off about, 18 inches or so, you're going to want to tie on some more tippet. So for that, you're going to use a triple surgeon's knot. Then to tie the tippet to the fly, I'm going to show you 3 different knots. All basic and simple. The clinch knot, the improved clinch knot, and then for smaller flies and its simplicity and quickness, I really like the Davy knot. You could actually use it on most of the flies that you're going to use to start fishing, but a lot of people go with a clinch knot, or if you have a friend that says, I don't know, whoever told you to tie a clinch knot's crazy, I tie an improved clinch knot. We're going to show you that too. So let's go in and I'll demonstrate these knots to you. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, now I'm going to demonstrate the different connections and knots that are used to set up your fly. So we'll start from the fly line to the leader, and we'll work our way down. So this is a new leader. As you can see, it has a loop already tied into it. And the way you want to unravel these is you want to unwind. They come with the loop wound around the line to hold it together. So you want to unwind this first. There's probably about 3 or 4 turns here, but you want to make sure that you unwind it all first. That's step 1. Get all the line wound off. Then you'll want to take the line, put it between your fingers, and then take it off nice and slow and uncoil it slowly, because if you don't, you can end up with a mess. So we've got this thing uncoiled now, and what we're going to see that it has some memory, so it's still coiled. You're going to want to straighten your leader before you fish with it anyway. So what you can do is just squeeze it between your fingers. They do make fancy leader straighteners, but if you just use your fingers, put a little tension on it, and pull it through, you can get rid of almost all of the loops. So now it's pretty straight. You'll want to do that a few times. Now, what you're going to do, it's very simple. You'll just take the loop on the end of your fly line. This happens to be one of my fly reels. Just to show you, the green is the backing, and this is a 2-tone fly line. So the blue and the white are the line, and here's the business end where you attach your leader. So you'll just take the fly line and hold it in your left hand or right hand to pick the loop from the leader and insert it through. And then you will take the leader and double it back on itself to create another little loop, like so. Then you'll insert that through the loop on the leader, and then pull the rest of the leader through, like that. And then what you end up with is something like this. You'll just shimmy this knot around here, and you're going to tighten this down. And that, my friends, is your leader to line loop connection. Okay, now for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use a heavier line. As you can see, this is a 5X tippet. You're not going to really be able to see me tying knots with this. So I'm going to use some colored line that's 15-pound test to demonstrate the next knot, which is going to be the triple surgeon's knot. So I have some red and some green line. I'll pull off a section, maybe a couple feet. And this one will also be curled, so I'll have to straighten it out. All this nylon line has a memory. Actually, most of the lines do, except for braid, but we're not dealing with that. So you'll want to straighten these out just by pulling on them, giving them some tension. Of course, the warmer the day is, the faster it will uncoil and lose its memory. But this is not bad. We're in the house, it's okay. So we're straightening that green line and the red line. So for demonstration purposes, we're gonna say that this red line is your leader. So as I've mentioned before, as we're out fishing and we change our flies or get snagged and lose a fly, or we get some casting knots in our, hopefully the tippet part of our leader, we want to get rid of those. We're going to cut away pieces of the leader, the tippet section. Once you've lost about 16 or 18 inches of your leader, you're going to want some tippet. So you'll take about 2 feet off the spool of your tippet, and then you're going to overlap the existing leader with the tippet about 6 inches. The more you give yourself when you're first tying this knot and practicing knot, the easier it's going to be. So you'll get these two lines together, and you're going to form a loop, like so. And what you're going to do is bring the tag end of the leader and your tippet through the knot 3 times. There's 1, there's 2, and there is, sorry, I hope it didn't come off camera that time. I pulled the line towards me a little bit. There is 3. So you'll want to maintain tension or pinch all 4 ends, and you'll start to close the knot. Now, here's where you'll want to lubricate your knots. If you're fishing, you can just simply use your saliva or the water in the, wherever you're fishing, the body of water. I have a little container here with some water in it, so I'm going to use that. Again, grab all 4 ends and seat the knot tight. And always double check. So double check, pull on the knot, then you can come back in and you will cut off the tag ends of the knot. Again, always lubricate and always double check to make sure that your knot is fully seated. Otherwise, you could lose a fish. Your knot will fail. So there you go. That's the triple surgeon's knot. You're going to use that for tippet to leader. Okay. Now we'll just carry on and have it, for demonstration purposes, a rather large fly. It's a steelhead fly, but it has a nice hook eye, so I can easily insert the line. You can see it. So for the clinch knot, what you're going to do is take the tippet end of the leader, and you're going to insert it through the eye of the hook, and then pull out about 3 or 4 inches of excess. Then you're going to wrap the line around itself about 5 times. There's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you're going to come back through this loop by the hook of the eye of the hook. And you'll want to hold on to that tag end. Then you'll want to begin to seat this knot. Okay, but when we get it seated, before we get it seated, we're going to want to lubricate the knot again, of course. So here's a little bit of water. Make sure it's nice and lubricated. And then we're just gonna seat this knot. And that is the clinch knot. It's a good knot. It's got a rather large profile, but it's still a great knot and used by a lot of people, and it's quick and easy. Now, you might have a friend that fishes already and says, I don't know what guy told you to use that clinch knot. There's a better knot. It's called an improved clinch knot. So I'm going to show you how to tie that knot right now. It's very similar to this, it's just one extra step. So again, you will bring the end of your leader through the eye of the hook and come about 4 or 5 inches. And then you're going to wrap around, you're going to wrap the end or the tag end around the leader about 4 or 5 times. And then you're going to go back through the loop, and you will notice that you have now made a second loop right here. So you'll take the tag end and you'll go through the second loop, and you'll hold on to that end with your other finger, and you will start to seat the knot. And before you're fully seated, you're going to want, again, yes, lubricate the knot. Always lubricate your knots. Now you can seat this knot like so. That is the improved clinch knot. It's got a little higher breaking strength. It's got a little bigger profile, but it's still a fine knot, and I encourage you to practice this knot, all the knots, to build up some muscle memory, and so when you get out there fishing, like I said earlier, you don't get frustrated or spend all your time tying knots and untangling line while you should be fishing. Okay, the last knot I'm going to show you is the Davy knot. Now the Davy knot has a very small profile. It actually has a stronger breaking strength than the clinch knot. So it's simple to tie. It's usually not the first knot people learn, but I think it's easy knot and I like it a lot. So what you're going to do is, of course, come up through the bottom of the eye of the hook, and you're going to bring this tag end in front of the leader, forming a loop like so. See? Okay. And you're going to come back up through the loop like so, and then over the top of the loop and back through like this, and grab the tag end with your fingers. Okay, then you're going to start to seat the knot, and once you get about, here, you're going to want to lubricate the knot again, so I'm going to do that for you. And here's an important part of this knot is you want to keep this tag end and pull it slightly away from the eye of the hook, because you want the tag end to be 90 degrees from the leader when it's finished. This means this is properly seated. Okay, so if your line's like this, the tag end of your line is like this after you've tied this knot, start it over. Make sure you have a 90-degree angle. That's a properly seated Davy knot. So you can come back in here, clip off the tag end, and you are ready to fish. Okay, make sure you always double check them. I know I'm repeating myself, but I've lost fish by not making sure my knots were properly seated, and that can be frustrating. Okay, that wraps up the knots. Okay, that wraps up part 6, where we've gone over the essential knots that you need to know while you're out on the water fishing. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I would again repeat myself and say practice your knots, lubricate the knots, and double check the knots. So I hope you come back for part 7, where we're going to go over casting. We're going to go look at 3 basic casts. 1, the bow and arrow cast, which is, I think, highly underutilized, especially in brushy conditions. Number 2 is going to be the roll cast, and the 3rd is going to be the pick up and lay down, which is the foundation of all fly casting, really. So I hope you guys come back. Thanks for watching this, and I'll see you then, part 7. Thanks.